Minister of Romy, Christopher Weber, says the road signs are almost ready to be placed. Prime Minister Sylvia Jacobs updates the press about the training of personnel at the port and at PJIA. But first up, lawyer for the defense in the Laramar case pleads for the investigation to be inadmissible. Those are the headlines for Thursday, March the 12th, 2020. This is SXM Daily News. I'm Valerie Van Putten. Now for the details. Lawyer for the defense, Eldon Pepe Silveran, pleaded Wednesday with a judge to declare the prosecutor's case against former Member of Parliament Theodore Heiliger in the Laramar investigation inadmissible. We will now read an excerpt of the trial in this edition of SXM Daily News. Mr. Pepe Silveran claimed that the charges brought against his client, including bribery and money laundering, could not be proven and called on the court to reject the prosecutor's demand for Mr. Heiliger's immediate incarceration in the case of an conviction. A large part of Mr. Silveran's pleadings, which was presented to the court at the Bel Air Community Center on Tuesday afternoon, is focused on his efforts to convince the judge that he could throw out the case against Heiliger. The lawyer's main argument was that his client's right to a fair trial had been violated because the prosecutor had used main suspect, Dutch consultant Ronald Marsdam, as a Crown witness in the investigation. Silveran said that the prosecutor's office had only closed a deal with Marsdam, for which he was rewarded with millions of dollars to be able to accuse Heiliger of having committed crimes. Also, former director of construction company Wynwood Roads, Jan Hendrik Boekhart, was persuaded to provide incriminating statements against Heiliger in exchange for a reduction in his prison sentence, Mr. Silveran claimed. The evidence obtained during secret and sneaky interrogations should also be excluded from the evidence. Mr. Heiliger's rights to a fair trial were deliberately violated and with gross disregard, the lawyer claimed. He also was very critical of the prosecutor's office media policy in this case, in which it had leveled grave accusations against Heiliger in a press release in late May of 2019, in which it had depicted him as a man who had defrauded St. Martin's taxpayers of large sums of money for decades. First and foremost, Silveran aimed his arrows at the use of a Crown witness, which he said was not allowed under St. Martin law and which failed the approval of the Parliament of St. Martin. Furthermore, he stated that in the Netherlands, where the use of Crown witnesses is allowed under conditions, monetary rewards are not permitted. Rewarding a criminal such as Marsdam affects justice. This criminal is not only avoids part of the sentence, he may also keep part of the proceeds and launder them. The higher the reward, the higher the possibility of false statements. The temptation shouldn't be too great, Silveran said, in warning of the danger that Marsdam had made up incriminating statements to get away with milder punishment. Mr. Silveran said that the prosecutor's office promises made the Ronald Marsdam he had been at the heart of corruption, money laundering, and tax evasion since 1997 are completely unacceptable. The lawyer said that many politicians had received money, but that Heiliger is the only one who is being investigated, claiming that the goal of the Laramar investigation was to collect evidence against him. Marsdam received US $6 million to collect evidence against Heiliger for which he could be convicted. According to Heiliger's lawyer, both Marsdam and Boekhart are lying about his client's involvement in the scheme. He described Marsdam as a cunning businessman and a pathological liar who is not Santa Claus. The deal with Marsdam, which consists of a 3-year sentence, suspension of the pre-trial detention, and return of 1.8 million euros in criminal assets, is shrouded in a cloud of mist and should be disallowed by the court, the lawyer stated. Apparently, crime pays in St. Martin, he added. He objected to the fact that his client, who had done much good for St. Martin, including the promotion of the island as a tourist and cruise destination and the promotion of employment for local St. Martiners, was depicted as a top criminal with a demonic profile. Heiliger's lawyer also reminded the court of the inhumane conditions under which Heiliger had been held in pre-trial detention in a cell at the Phillipsburg police station, after which he had been transferred to Bonaire without notification of his family and his lawyer, and without his medication while he was suffering from gout. Sulvaran arrived at the conclusion that this case was built on the deliberate violation of powers in order to inflict as much suffering as possible and eliminate the politician Heiliger. It is expected that the court will present its decisions in the Larimar investigation on April 24th. And at the Council of Ministers weekly press briefing, the Prime Minister spoke about the training in predictive profiling, which includes detecting suspicious behaviors by observers for the personnel at the port of St. Martin.
In predictive profiling, which includes detecting suspicious behaviors by observers and asking the right questions, was recently given to personnel of Port St. Martin, Princess Juliana International Airport, and the Council of Ministers Security Detail at Dr. A.C. Watty Cruise and Cargo Facility. Security company Checkmate was also part of this training. It enabled the participants to enhance their skills as they served as frontline of security work. All 24 participants went through a 2-day training session, full day, included an exam and certification. I am proud to announce that all participants passed the training successfully and are now certified as threat assessment officers. We now move on to the even more serious news of the day. Yesterday we held what is our third EOC meeting. We held the first on Wednesday, March 4th, the second on Friday, March 6th, and on Tuesday, March 10th, yesterday, the complete EOC met. The main target or the main message we would like to give to the general public of St. Martin is that prevention, preparedness, and more prevention. And that is what we were discussing within the EOC. As my colleague ministers mentioned, the work of government continues, but everything related to the COVID virus, everything related to the prevention and the preparation and the response is the responsibility of the Prime Minister once the EOC has been activated. And as such, I want to thank each and every one of them for their cooperation thus far, because I must say the EOC has been functioning very, very well, and continued collaboration and cooperation with my colleague ministers is very, very important for the success of the EOC. The WHO, in speaking at the COVID-19 media briefing, the Director General stated that the COVID-19 epidemic, quote, can be pushed back, and only with a collective, coordinated, and comprehensive approach that engages the entire machinery of government. And so I thank you that we are living up to what the WHO recommends in all aspects. Leadership from the top, we call on all country leaders to mobilize their plans, coordinating every part of government, not just the health ministry, security, diplomacy, finance, commerce, transport, trade, information, and more. The whole government should be involved. And this is a quote from Dr. Theodore of the WHO. So several packages have been made available to countries, and I must say St. Martin is seeing that increasing capacity to detect and care for patients, ensuring that hospitals have space, supplies, and necessary personnel while developing life-saving medical interventions also forms part of our core priorities as we prepare.
Travel restrictions to the destination stepped up from 14 to 21 days. EOC to meet Thursday, and the members of parliament are to be informed. The Department of Communications has issued the travel restrictions which were issued by the government of St. Martin have now been increased from 14 to 21 days, Prime Minister Sylvia Jacobs disclosed on Wednesday. The Emergency Operations Center, EOC, will be meeting with members of Parliament, MPs, to provide them with an update on the national preparations for COVID-19. The Prime Minister said the World Health Organization, WHO, declared on Wednesday that the coronavirus COVID-19 is now an international pandemic. Such a declaration calls on all countries to speed up their response and containment measures and to be prepared to take any additional measures that are required to protect public health. The government continues to work closely with the government of French Saint Martin and Kingdom counterparts in order to prepare and plan to mitigate the spread. Passengers and airline crew who have been in China, People's Republic, Hong Kong, SAR China, Iran, Italy, Japan, Korea, Republic of Macau, SAR China, or Singapore in the past 21 days are not allowed to transit or enter Saint Martin. This does not apply to nationals of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, being from Aruba, Bonaire, Curaçao, Netherlands, St. Eustatius, Saba, and Saint Martin. And this does apply only to residents of Saint Martin. The government continues to work diligently to increase capacity within the public health sector, but this will take some time, stated the DECOM press release on Wednesday. And still to come, Member of Parliament Emmanuel queries Minister of Justice on the CFATF. We'll have the details of that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering a brighter future.
Our friend Megawati is here with tips to save you energy. 1. Turn your airco temperature up. 2. Use a ceiling fan instead. 3. Buy energy-saving products. Save some green with NVGEBE.
After more than 2.5 years, the road signs are finally getting ready to be placed. Minister of Romy, Christopher Weaver, announced in the weekly Council of Ministers press briefing on Wednesday, March 11, 2020. The minister also updated the press about the updating of the boundaries and the work in Dutch Quarter.
I would like to announce that the road signs have arrived and the preparations are currently being made to have the signs placed. If you notice alongside some of the roads, you do see the poles that are there already. So right now the ministry is evaluating to make sure everything is at the correct place and then have those signs replaced as soon as possible. Also last week Thursday, the Council of Ministers had a presentation from the Ministry of Romy as it pertains to the updating of the boundaries of the various districts using the GIS, which stands for Geographic Information System. This was done also in collaboration with the Stats Department, Department of Statistics. The reason for this presentation is that due to the buildup of certain areas and that the change of the geographic map from the island as well, the current boundaries that we currently see cause some issues pertaining to addressing when it comes to some households. Now, half would be like in Kobe and the other half would be seen in Simpson Bay area. So these issues need to be addressed and therefore update of the boundary system needs to take place. The Council of Ministers also approved the proposed updates with some minor changes from the Council yesterday in the Council of Ministers. So once this is finalized, this will also be shared with the public. Lastly, I am pleased that after many meetings between all parties involved, I would like to announce that the works in Dutch Quarter has started back on Monday, March 9th, and it is estimated to finalize in November 2020 if all goes according to plan. I would like to thank Ilaco van Boekel, the Department of BAC within the Ministry of General Affairs, and the Department of New Works within the Ministry of Rummy for all their hard work in making this possible. I would also like to thank all the subcontractors for their patience while all the concerns have been addressed, and we hope that from now on the works can continue until it's finalized in November.
And Member of Parliament Christophe Emmanuel, speaking at the public meeting of Parliament on Friday, March 6th, on the topic of the CFATF, the Member of Parliament said that we need to understand what is happening here and not really knowing the consequences of just pass it.
Because you need to understand what we are talking about here. Because it is not so simple when you hear others say, look, just pass it. And I'm willing to pass it. Just in, but I'm willing to pass it. Not knowing really the consequences of just pass it. It is a reason why we are where we are at today. Because one, a former minister, without delegation, without discussing, goes down to Trinidad, meet the entity in Trinidad, meet the secretary in Trinidad and say, don't worry, we're going to pass this and this is going to be approved. And Parliament don't know nothing. Parliament don't know. That's what the minister did. That's what the minister did. And then you had other ministers come in, don't pass it and you're going to see. And we're like, but, I mean, it's not a fish market. We are members of Parliament. You got to have a dialogue with us. That's the issue where we are at today. Each and every member of Parliament sitting here, Mr. Chairman, want to approve the recommendations of the CFATF. Don't want St. Martin to be blacklisted, each and every one of us. But it can't simply be just do it for doing it. No, it's a reason why we at today where we are at. My colleague MP Samuel said, one came and the other came, and they fused them together. For a particular reason, it was fused together. Because they know the importance and they know the backlash that members of Parliament, politicians in this country would get if St. Martin is blacklisted. They know what would happen. So, they also know that this would not pass if it comes by itself. So you know what? Let us kill two birds with one stone. Put them together. You call that blackmail. That's what it is. So we are forced to do something that we don't want to do, but we must. My colleague, Mr. Utley, said, it's either I shoot myself in the left foot or the right foot, but either way, you're still shooting yourself. Either way, you're still shooting yourself. But in particular, Mr. Chairman, I don't think the people of St. Martin understand exactly what it is we have an issue with. Because according to the media reports and everything, you would want to believe, Mr. Chairman, that we have an issue with the recommendations, regulations of the CFATF. That is when you listen to the papers, when you listen to the media, you would believe that that is the issue. Absolutely not true.
Now turning to our weather forecast for March the 12th, 2020, a relatively dry atmosphere will continue to restrict precipitation across the region. Meanwhile, the Atlantic high-pressure system centered north of the local area will maintain light to moderate winds. Seas will gradually subside during this forecast period, but will remain rough. The small craft advisory remains in place until later today. Small craft operators and sea bathers are advised to exercise caution on open waters. Now let's turn to your 3-day forecast. And still to come, Minister of Finance speaks about the sale of UTS and its shares at the Central Committee meeting. We'll have the details of that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
Make use of WIB mobile banking with easy access and direct usage of face recognition, PIN code, or fingerprint. Download WIB mobile banking app and make your transaction from anywhere at any time. For more information, visit wib-bank.net/quick-login.
Minister of Finance Ardwell Edion, speaking about the sale of UTS and its shares at the Central Committee meeting of Parliament on March 6, 2020, the issue of the sale of UTS, the minister was answering questions posed to him from his colleagues in Parliament about where the majority of money was to go. Minister of Justice wanted to pay the backlog of salaries owed to the police officers, but now MP Emmanuel asked if the previous minister did what was contrary to what was said by Parliament. MP Emmanuel wanted to understand it clearly.
On the shares was part of the calculation of all the shares, including the sale by Curaçao. St. Martin will receive the same price per share as Curaçao, so there was no dilution of the value of the shares. I believe to MP Westcott, the figures cannot be divulged because there's a clause in the contract that the previous Minister of Finance signed on to. It's not because I don't want to be transparent, but actually I have the financial overview here, and I'm willing to also share it to the members of Parliament after the meeting. And this will be showing the price per share is also the same for St. Martin as it is for Curaçao, without a dilution in the price. And to MP Bryson also, he questioned the payment to Telem. The payment to Telem, based on the information I got, the last Minister of Finance, Mr. Perry Hillens, did so because if he had paid, there was an arrangement made that if he paid the money from UTS to Telem, Telem would have given a discount on the interest, they waived the interest. And secondly, there was no legal basis at that time to pay the police officers until the current Minister of Justice, Minister Doran, created the legal basis to pay the police officers. But it's still my opinion. It was clear to me that in the initiative law it actually stated what the goal was of this payment, and it was also clear that the members of Parliament at that time, the majority at least, wanted the shares to go to the police officers.
Instructing that this money goes specifically to police officers. Is it the case that the minister is saying that the previous minister decided to do contrary to what was said by Parliament? And if that is the case, and all the money went to Telem, what happens to the director of Telem saying he's willing to give back some of the money? I'm trying to understand clearly that the minister is saying that even though Parliament make it clear where this money had to go, the minister decided to do something else different. That's what I want to know, Mr. Chairman.
It was his prerogative at that time as Minister of Finance and Minister of Justice. And he made a decision to pay Telem based on getting discount on the interest rates. Yes. Which one? Based on getting discount on not having to pay the interest rates to Telem if they made the payment from UTS available.
And still to come, Prime Minister honors women at the first annual Uwalichi International Women's Day. We'll have the details to that story when SXM Daily News returns.
Hello, St. Martin. My name is Heiliger and I play basketball. I have organized basketball events in St. Martin. Sport matters to me because it makes everybody come together in unity. So I challenge the businesses community to step up for sports and help us rebuild and repair our facility. I'm also asking the community to nominate local businesses in your area to take on the challenge and step up for sport because sports matter. Check out the Department of Sports SXM Facebook page for more information. Hashtag Sport Matter, hashtag Are You In?
Prime Minister Sylvia Jacobs honored several women in the community last Thursday, March the 5th, 2020, on the occasion of International Women's Day at the first annual Uwalichi International Women's Day Award.
Last Thursday, between two strong ladies, I must say, the first Vice President, Honorable Valerie Damaso, and myself, we hosted 50 strong, influential women of St. Martin, Saint-Martin, in what was termed the first annual Uwalichi International Women's Day Awards ceremony. It was held on the French side for this first annual at the Lottery Farm. Though small and intimate, it included locally elected and appointed officials, special honorees for this first official award ceremony, hosted by both governments, were the late iconic women, former educator and lawyer Mrs. Mavis Brooks Salmon, and historian Daniela Jeffrey. Also honored at this first annual were the first and former ombudsman, Mrs. Dr. Nilda Orduin, and Miss Evelyn Fleming. Though the event was slated to start since 2019, with Ms. Jeffrey playing a key role, both leaders felt it imperative to still show the honor of their contribution to the development of St. Martin and the wider community by hosting their families at this event. Congratulations go out to all honorees. All invited women were honored with a small certificate as well as a lovely dinner. Even though to get to 50 women was quite difficult, the list was quite long, we look forward to, in the coming month, honoring different women in different ways so that we can show St. Martin and the rest of the world how many commendable, strong, and influential women we have in our society. Because if you look around, you might say that there is inequality in the world, and in several parts of the world, women are still seen as second-class citizens, and that is why this day exists. But luckily and thankfully, on St. Martin, as in most of the Caribbean, you can see that women have always played a very strong role within their families and society, and have been moving up the ranks and holding top positions, as well as being influential within their communities. So, in this month of March, though we are in a serious period dealing with COVID virus, dealing with, serious issues within social development and our youth, we must still give thanks for what is good, and we give thanks for all the hardworking women that we can celebrate during this entire month. So I'm sure everyone is connected to a woman that they can honor. You still have time. March has 31 days.
And I'm Valerie Van Putten. Just a reminder that this and other programs are available online. Simply log on to stmartinmediacenter.com for viewing. And on behalf of the SXM Daily News team, we thank you for watching and plan on meeting you back here again tomorrow.